Jess and I arrived in Brazil to step into the open arms of the Salvadorian people. We found that the city of Salvador was divided into two portions, the upper and lower city. The lower city was mostly a mercantile and business area, where the upper city was the old portion of colonial Salvador. There were cobblestone streets, a lot of churches, and stores and shops that reflected African and Brazilian combined art. We quickly found out that Brazil was not necessarily a safe place. There was a number of muggings in our group, and we always had to be concerned about where we took our camera and where we traveled. We found that the African Brazilian people are very proud to be called Negro. Salvador contained the majority of the African slave trade in Brazil. We found some of the common dance of the African Brazilian slaves carried over into popular Brazilian culture and were practiced. We saw a Reisha and Capoeira dancing. After we saw the traditional dancing, we went to a wonderful Brazilian dinner, where in the normal fashion, several different meats are served to you off of a skewer.
Tell us where we're going.
Yes, so we're on our way surfing, and right now we're passing Beach Batoa.
Priya Batoa.
There you go.
Beach Batoa.
But I thought it meant that animal that you're going to see on my leg for.
The next day we went to visit a Brazilian beach with a Portuguese guide named Pedro and a surfing guide named 40 Degrees. We started out in the morning with a yoga lesson, later some initial surf lessons in the water, and then in the afternoon we were left on our own with a surfboard in the ocean. We had a wonderful time, but came home with some sunburn and some bruises. Later that same day, we went to a carnival event in the Pelourinho district again in Salvador and saw some wonderful dancing and performances in preparation for carnival. The next day, we went by way of boat to a couple of islands across the bay from Salvador called Itrapica and Isla de Freitas. These islands had some traditional colonial cities, but were a little different paced lifestyle for the Brazilian people there. On the way, we had a windstorm that blew away one of my favorite hats that Jess was wearing. Oh. We met one of the oldest women on the island.
What do you think of that, Jeff?
I think it's pretty good.
And saw more capoeira dancing before we came back for our last day in Salvador of exploring and finally set sea again for South Africa.